Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are diving into something that is frankly just incredibly maddening about family court. It's this dynamic called procedural gaslighting. You know that feeling when you're caught in a trap made from the very rules that are supposed to protect you? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're going to break down what it is, how to spot it, and most importantly, how to keep your head on straight through it all. So let's get into it.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a situation where you are trying so hard to do everything right, to follow every single instruction, but somehow, just by doing that, you end up being painted as the difficult one, as high conflict? It is one of the most confusing and infuriating feelings in the world.
And wow, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The system literally tells you you have a voice, you have rights, but the moment you try to use them, you get slapped down. It's the perfect trap, a real no-win situation. Okay, so to help you get your bearings, we are going to map this whole thing out. Now, think of this explainer not as legal advice, it's definitely not that, but more like a guide for a really confusing landscape. It's designed to give you a framework, a way to understand what might be happening so you can stay grounded.
And the absolute first thing you need to know is, if any of this is starting to sound familiar, you are so not alone. The whole goal here is to give you the language for this experience, to validate just how disorienting it is, and to hand you a few tools to help keep your mind clear in what can be a very, very foggy process.
All right, so first things first, we have to put a name to this thing because, giving an experience a name is the single most powerful step toward actually understanding it and getting a handle on it. So what is procedural gaslighting really?
Here it is, plain and simple. It's when you use the proper channels. You file the motions, you present the evidence, you do what you're told, all in good faith. But the system's reaction is to treat your actions themselves as proof that you are the problem. I love this slide because it just boils the whole dynamic down into this simple, brutal formula. The court says you can do this, but when you follow through and you actually do it, the equation somehow magically resolves to you're the problem. See, the real harm here isn't just a bad outcome. It's this twisted mixed message that makes you question your own judgment, your own sanity.
Now, it's super important to separate this from the kind of gaslighting we usually talk about. Interpersonal gaslighting, that's one person trying to mess with your reality, saying things like that never happened or you're crazy. But procedural gaslighting is different. It's systemic. The system isn't denying you did something. It's taking your totally legitimate action and reframing it as a sign that you're unstable or irrational.
And look, let's be real, not every frustrating day in court is gaslighting. The key difference here, and this is crucial, is the pattern. Normal legal disappointment, it sucks, but it happens inside a system with consistent rules, even if you hate the outcome. Procedural gaslighting is a whole other beast. It's about repeated mixed messages, rules that seem to apply to you but not to others, and a shift in focus from your actual arguments to attacks on your character.
Okay, so what does this actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through some really common patterns. And if you've been through the ringer, some of these might feel uncomfortably familiar. The whole point here is to see that these aren't just random, isolated incidents. They are part of a much larger, predictable dynamic.
All right, here's a classic setup. The court, or maybe an official, tells you the proper way to handle this is to file a motion. Don't call, don't email, just file. Sounds simple enough, right? Clear, helpful instructions. But then, this happens. You do exactly what you were told. You file your motion, and suddenly you're being described in a report as overly litigious or argumentative. All the attention goes to the number of times you filed, not the actual substance of what you're filing about. And the real kicker? You might see the other party do the exact same thing and get praised for being so proactive and involved. It's maddening. So the message that lands, the one your nervous system absorbs, is this impossible double bind. If I follow the rules, I get punished. If I don't follow the rules, I also get punished. It's designed to make you feel trapped, like there's no right move to make.
And this trap pops up in so many other ways, too. Your stack of evidence gets thrown out because of a tiny formatting mistake, while the other side's hearsay is totally fine. Or you're told to get therapy to work on your issues, and then your totally normal feelings in that therapy get twisted into a diagnosis of pathology. It feels like the rules are constantly shifting, and they always shift against you. Which brings us to something really, really important, the psychological toll. This whole experience isn't just frustrating, it's genuinely harmful.
And understanding why it hurts so much is a huge part of protecting your own mental health. Just remember, your reactions are normal human responses to a completely abnormal situation.
Think about it. The constant contradiction creates something called cognitive dissonance. Your brain is struggling to hold two opposite ideas at once. I was told to do this, and I'm being punished for doing this. And over time, that just wears you down. It erodes your trust in your own judgment. You start thinking, maybe they're right. Maybe I am the problem. And eventually, that can lead to learned helplessness. That feeling of, why even bother? Nothing I do matters anyway.
And this right here, this is so powerful. If your heart pounds or your stomach drops every time you see an email from your lawyer, that is not you being overly emotional. That is your body's survival response. Your nervous system has learned, through repeated shocks, that these things are a threat, and it's trying to protect you. It's not crazy, it's biology.
Okay, so we've named it, we've seen how it works, and we get why it's so damaging. Now for the good part, the empowering part. Let's talk about the toolkit. These are practical, real-world strategies you can use to start documenting what's happening, to communicate more strategically, and ultimately to protect your own sanity and your credibility in the process.
This right here is a game changer. It's the said versus did log. It is so simple, but so effective. One column, you write down the official instruction, what you were told to do. File a motion, communicate via email. The other column, you write down factually what happened when you did that. Was called litigious, was told I communicate too much. This isn't for writing an angry diary. It's for calmly and methodically documenting the pattern of contradiction. Factual, not fiery.
And before you hit send on that email, before you file that motion, just pause, take a breath, and run through this quick checklist. It forces you to get strategic. Number 1, what am I really trying to do here? 2, is this the only way? And number 3 is my favorite. Could a total stranger, a neutral outsider, understand why I'm doing this? This little step helps you move from just reacting emotionally to acting with clear intention.
And here's what that strategic communication can actually sound like in practice. This kind of language is brilliant for 2 reasons. First, it shows you're listening and you're trying to follow instructions. Second, it frames your action as a request for help, for clarity, not as an attack. You're basically saying, I'm doing this because you told me to, and I need your help to understand.
So when it comes down to it, this whole toolkit really has one primary goal: to give you back your clarity. First and foremost, this is for you, to help you stay oriented and see the pattern so you don't start buying into the idea that you're the problem. And then it gives you those solid, documented examples you can bring to your support system, your lawyer, your therapist, your friends. And let's just land on this for a second, because it is so important. Noticing that the rules keep changing doesn't make you crazy or paranoid. It makes you observant. You are allowed to trust what you see. You deserve to feel grounded in your own perception of reality, especially when the world around you is trying to convince you that you can't. And we're going to end on this because it's really the whole point. This process can make you feel so lost, just adrift in this fog of self-doubt and confusion. But if the only thing you take away from our time together is this simple idea, it makes sense that I feel this way, and it's okay for me to protect my own mind, well, that right there is a huge, powerful step toward finding your way out of the fog. Thanks so much for watching.